Hello, everybody. We're so happy you're here. I'll turn it around. So you can see some of our intrepid crew members here in front of a city bus of Key West. I'm going to have my mom briefly, so my mom's our behind the scenes camera woman today. I'm going to have her stop sharing her screen for right now, just so we can see the awesome people who are here with me today. Hello! Oh, it's so exciting. I'll pan it around. We got Allison from the city of Key West. There she is. Exciting. And her colleagues. Oh, awesome. And we got some friends from Extension too, which is very exciting. Before they introduce themselves, I'm just going to do some quick housekeeping. So I'm going to, we have some echo apparently in our audio. So I'm going to have our friends mute themselves. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to have my mom share her screen again. So I can take us through some quick housekeeping before we officially get started. All right, so Mom, if you can share screen. All right. So you can see my slides up here for ClimateCast Live, Monroe County. It is March 5th, 2024 today. My name is Caroline Nickerson. I'm a PhD candidate from the University of Florida. I'm being joined from friends from the city of Key West, local government, from the UF IFAS Extension Office, and then all of you online who are here to learn. I want to thank our partners, the North American Association for Environmental Education, SciStarter, IC Change, UF IFAS Extension, of course, and Streaming Science, a project out of the University of Florida, where this program will live after it's done. It's going to be up on the Streaming Science website, the Streaming Science Facebook page, and it'll also be up on the Climate Smart Floridians course. So lots of places where you can find it. We'll get to the next slide. So some quick background. If you are so kind, after this program, you can fill out a survey and even optionally do some interviews. I'm going to be emailing the survey out to everybody who tuned in on Zoom, are registered, and wants to watch the recording. And then you can help me understand environmental education and what you learned from this program and how we can make programs like these even better. So the research is completely optional, but we hope you do it. This is also the last in our ClimateCast Live series. I've been visiting counties throughout the state and working with Extension to highlight different climate hazards and what you can do about them in your local community. So if you're interested in those are all going to be up on the Streaming Science website tomorrow. We'll go to the next slide. And once again, I just really wanted to emphasize that the research is optional and the recordings will be available after. So yeah, if you have to leave early or anything like that, never fear, you'll be able to find it. And also, we really view today's program as a conversation with you. So if at any point our audio sounds bad, or anything transpires, let us know in the Q&A box. And also, if anything crosses your mind, or you're just really curious about something, or you like something we said, let us know in the Q&A as well. We are in conversation with you. We're gonna go to the next slide. All right, so now I'm gonna turn my camera around. I'm gonna mute myself, unmute the mic for my colleagues from Extension. You're gonna hear from Alicia about transportation and climate change. All right.
Hi, everyone. So we want to talk today about transportation and climate change. So there's a couple of things that we think about when we think about transportation and climate change. And the first is that transportation nationally accounts for about 25% of our greenhouse gas emissions, and that behavior changes can greatly reduce emissions in the United States. Air travel also accounts for about 13% of our transportation-related emissions. And with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Rogelio.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rogelio Hernandez. I'm with the City of Key West Department of Transportation, also known as Key West Transit. There's a few things I want to mention. Many of the challenges that the world faces are exemplified here in Key West. As temperature increase globally and sea level rises, Key West is among one of the most potentially exposed area in the nation. With that being said, in 2001, the city of Key West teamed up with a consultant to create a strategic plan. That plan was approved by commission and will guide the city to address climate change such as sea rise level. To that extent, one of the priorities was as part of the plan was the traffic and pedestrian friendliness, which rose to the top of the community's interest. One of the means of addressing the issue is in the strategic plan is the on-demand transit, which went live in 2022 of December. The on-demand transit known as Key West Rides is a micro transit service that we offer here. And it reduces congestion and environmental impact by optimizing routes and reducing empty vehicle mileage, also reducing traffic congestion as well within the city limits. Additionally, we also have other fixed route service and the fleet that consists of hybrid electric vehicles, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. And the rest consists of clean diesel, which are a lot cleaner than the vehicle buses were 10 years ago. They produce 50% less emissions than the previous fleet, and that's something that we're happy about. In the future, we're looking at purchasing our first full electric bus that the commission has already approved, and we have already placed the order. That's going to be the first full electric bus in our fleet, so there's some learning curves there. But that's definitely in the right direction towards, reducing greenhouse and participating in, and improving the climate change. Additionally, the Key West Transit is also participating in the Keys Coast Transit Signal Prioritization Project that started about 1.5 years ago. Equipments have been installed on each one of our buses and support vehicles to collect data in hopes to reduce traffic and also improve traffic flow within the Florida Keys and the city of Key West. That's a project that we're currently working on, and we look forward to completing here shortly. There's also part of the strategic plan calls for improving pedestrian crossing and extending the bike trail through the center of the island. It contains a pilot program for pedestrian-only streets in Old Town as well. So many things going on that the city is working on. All of our buses in our fleet consist or has a 2-position bike rack, which you can see Ryan here utilizing. And we're in the process of actually replacing all the 2-position bike racks with 3-position bike racks in the future, just to accommodate the amount of requests we're getting for passengers that would like to bring their bicycles on board. Yeah, and back to the buses. So our majority of the fleet consists of clean diesel. The 2 hybrids that we have were purchased back in 2015 and one in 2018. Those vehicles so far, have been seen to get 2 more miles more to the gallon, which again helps with the greenhouse effect. And as you guys know, most buses can carry up to 50 people on board the bus, which on average our carries about 30, as opposed to single vehicle occupancy. So yeah, we're always pushing to minimizing greenhouse effect at Key West Transit.
That was awesome. I think it's time to get on the bus. Am I right? Yes. All right. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about what's going on in Key West. So as you can see now, we are getting on the bus. Woo! Exciting stuff. Hello. All right, we're on the bus with our whole crew here. Exciting stuff. All right, we're going to pass the mic and get to the next part of our presentation. There's Alicia from UF-IFAS Extension. Thank you, Alicia. I'm going to take my audio off and pass the mic to her. So thank you again.
Okay, that was so interesting. And it was really neat to see how we can get across this major thoroughfare here in Key West. Slides, please. We're just waiting for the slides to come up. Give me 1 second. Next slide, please. So when we're thinking about climate change impacts in transportation, the impacts from climate change are going to require a couple of things. We talked about one of them. The first of those is mitigation. So how do we reduce our greenhouse gases? But another thing that we're going to look at a little bit later is adaptation. Because climate change has a couple of different things that it's going to affect in terms of transportation. We have physical impacts that are droughts and flood and heat wave, rising sea levels, of course, here in Key West are a big problem for us. Also vulnerable infrastructure. So our roadways, our ports and coastal zones are really going to be affected. Next slide, please. So impacts on roadways are something that we're really interested in studying here in Florida. Here in the Florida Keys, we have some roadways that are already impacted where we get tidal flooding, you know, multiple days a year. And that can undermine the road beds. So you'll see across Florida, but particularly here in the Florida Keys, some of the challenges that we have include roadways, but we can look at also, next slide, please. We do not have railway here in the Keys, but I think if you'll remember, a lot of the impacts from Hurricane Sandy, especially in the New York area, they had a lot of impacts on railways. And this is a picture of the flooding in the New York City subway stations. So when we think about climate change impacts and transportation, we need to sort of look holistically at what our infrastructure can adapt to and what our infrastructure is going to need to you know, make changes. Some of those changes may be, you know, that we are not doing, you know, subway stations here in the Florida Keys. We're having to think about elevating roadways and multiple things like that. Next slide, please. There'll also be climate change impacts on air transportation. So one of the things that we don't think about too much when we think about climate change impacts is air and marine transportation. But air transportation, and particularly here in Florida, airplanes are designed to fly to within a certain temperature range. And so when we have numerous places outside of that numerous days outside of that temperature range, we certainly are not doing good by the airplanes themselves. Here in Key West, our Key West airport is just less than 3 feet above sea level. So, you know, one of the things we need to think about is the airports and other services that are designed to, you know, be dry, be at a certain level. And so impacts on air transportation in terms of infrastructure are important. Next slide, please. Impacts on marine transportation are interesting because there'll be some winners and some losers. There are some impacts that will need to be adjusted for and adapted to. And some, like more, let's say sea level rise, there may be more water in certain ports and canals, which can be a good thing. You can get bigger ships in those ports and canals when the water level is higher. But another thing to think of is if you have bridges, there may be less clearance in bridges if your water level is higher. Next slide, please. And finally, I want to touch on, I'm going to touch on mitigation and adaptation. So when we talk about mitigating, we talked a little bit about greenhouse gases in the beginning. And I wanted to just say a couple of things about mitigation. And energy efficiency measures have a good return on investment. So when we talk about mitigation, we're really talking about saving energy. And one of the things that mitigation does in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions is it has a lot of co-benefits. So a healthier community, less air pollution. Those are things that you'll find when you reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. The transition to mitigate greenhouse gases can be new technologies, a shift in infrastructure, and the things you'll see on this slide here, cutting vehicle weight, and bringing engines up to leading edge standards. So as we're getting ready to do our next demonstration, let's go one more slide to adaptation. Oh, that was the last slide. Okay, so hang with us for just a second as we get into position for our next demonstration.
Let's go ahead and drop the slides and we'll talk to Ryan.
Hello, hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Ryan Stahersky. I'm the multimodal transportation coordinator for the city of Key West, Florida. And I got on the bus just a couple ways back at one of the busiest roads in Key West, certainly on the island. It's called North Roosevelt. I was going through a hawk signal. We have a handful of those on the island, along with some rectangular rapid flashing beacons. These are great because they stop. They're really great at stopping the vehicular traffic so that the pedestrians can get through. Because it's 2 lanes in each direction. It's a little bit of a hectic thing. So we always want to make sure that we provide ways for people to get around the island safely and comfortably, because it's essential for them to be able to get out of their cars and to be able to use the island in a more sustainable way. So we're always looking to figure out how we can improve safety. We're up here at this intersection of the Crosstown Greenway. So a couple years back, we had a pilot project to look at this greenway. This greenway goes kind of right down the geographic center of the island. And if you follow me out here, we marked up the street with these big Sharrow markings, just to remind everybody that we do have a lot of cyclists coming through here. You see a couple cyclists in the distance. There's probably more cyclists on the street right now than cars, which is kind of what we like to see. We have over 1,000 trips a day that we count with bicyclists, which is a lot for Key West. If you come out a little bit further, you can see some painted markings. Now, when we put this in, we actually had some flexible bollards here to kind of help call out this this bulb out area, if you will. And what it does is it shortens the crossing distance for pedestrians so that they're a little bit more comfortable to be crossing. But this is just a pilot project. This is just paint. It was pretty inexpensive. So what we've done now is actually right now today, we have workers working on United Street a little bit further downtown, where we've incorporated a lot of these bulb outs to make it more pedestrian friendly. But we do all kinds of things to make it easier to get around by bike too. We give out bike lights to folks. We encourage people to ride safely, of course. We make it easier with the installation of bicycle fix-it stations, which we have. We have about 6 of them that we just put in the city, and then a bunch more as you go up the Keys. So it makes it easier for people to ride their bike, to get on the bus, to commute around the Keys. Okay. So what else should we talk about? We have do we have any questions or anything that's bike related? No questions. So we do have a lot of e-bike riders too. We have there's no video at the moment, but we do have a lot of big increase in e-bike riders. People find it an affordable way to commute into town. And the great thing is, they're electric powered. So, it's a lot less demand on our system down here than using the plain old, gasoline powered vehicle. They don't take up as much space. We don't have a lot of space. Space is expensive and a premium. So it's kind of a good fit. And it's, one thing that we like to see is the ability to get people to switch from using a regular car to taking an e-bike, and maybe just a regular bicycle or using some mix of these modes. So let's see, what else do we have?
So I see a question coming through chat. This is Caroline chiming in. Holly wants to know, Do you know how many people in the city bike versus driving or walking, and how often do you count bicycles using the streets?
Using the streets. Well, we're pretty lucky, I guess, or maybe it's because of where we are geographically, but it's always a great time. Like the weather is always great to ride a bike. So we actually on the census, I believe we have 14% commuters, like work commuters, by bicycle, which is pretty high in the U.S. Maybe not to compared to some of the cities that people think of as having like a super high bicycle commuter rate, but it is pretty high. And we do have, fortunately, FDOT has a permanent counter right outside of the island. So we actually can get very good counts of bicycles, and they can differentiate between bicycles and maybe e-bikes or scooters, kind of depending on the speed. And we're working actually a couple blocks east of here. We're working to put in a replacement pedestrian bicycle bridge right now, Staples Bridge. We expect to have a permanent counter installed on that as well, so we can get an accurate count of all of the folks who are using non-motorized means. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a great question. And then before we get back on the bus, I think one more question. What's your favorite of living in Key West?
I've lived in a few cities. I really appreciate how compact everything is. It's like a small town with a really big vision, and we have a pretty diverse population, folks from all around the world. They visit here, they choose to live here, but it's a great place to live, and it's great to get around.
Back on the bus.
Hello, everybody. I'm Allison Higgins. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Key West, and I'm joined by my good friend here,
Alicia Betancourt. I'm the Extension Director here in Monroe County.
Interesting fun fact about Alicia. For many years, the city ran a island-wide green commute challenge, and she started biking to work because she wanted the points to win the game. And she kept riding her bike to work afterwards, and she has now ridden her bicycle all the way from Key Largo to stay at my house in Key West. So it's just one step, one pedal at a time. So this part right now, we're going to talk more about adaptation and mitigation. So Alicia was talking earlier. We could go ahead and go. Sorry. Alicia was talking earlier about, okay, so what does that mean for transportation? So down here, we have 11 intersections where the salt water comes up through the storm drains at high tides. Cars don't like to go through that. Bikes don't like to go through that. People don't like to walk through that. And a lot of times when people try to raise one thing, that water that used to puddle there moves to somewhere else. So when we're in the elevator, outside of that right of way for the walkers and the bikers. So one of the pieces of thinking through where our key bike paths are going to be is those are the areas we want to keep as dry as possible and as shaded as possible, so that those areas are always the preferred place to be, and that biking and walking continue a preferred way of travel because we've kept it easier. That said, you can't just raise everything. So there is a neighborhood up in Key Largo called Stillwright Point. During the king tide seasons, their road is always underwater. Could be just a couple inches, has been up to 18 inches for months. And they were very interested in the county helping to raise their road. So the county went and got a budget for that and said, well, we only need, I'm going to get this wrong, $12 million. And by the way, since this is directly helping this 170 houses, can you help? And they said, oh no, that's a lot. For that dollar amount, we also need to learn to just live with water. I can get you 170 SUVs for a lot cheaper than $12 million, and you can just drive through 18 inches of water. So that's one of the things that we will be wrestling with as the tides are higher. We can't afford to raise every road. And even if we could, we can't raise the roads forever. What does that look like? We can raise our houses, but we will have to come up with a different mode of transportation. If you get a chance, look up an amphibicar, or look up my favorite, the Schwimm wagon. They are neither of them are being made anymore. But the idea of an amphibious car that can go both in water and on the roads, depending on your conditions, has been done and is out there already. Our next stop that we're going for, did you have anything to add? I'm sorry.
No, I think you're good.
Right now, we are going down Flagler, which is one of our main thoroughfares and is one of our evacuation routes. These are the transportation corridors we are the most concerned about for people to get out of town when a hurricane's coming. So we definitely look at, but all of that said, one whole lane of Flagler goes underwater at the highest of the king tides. So these are things that we are working on with the county, because not all the roads within Key West are the city of Key West's roads. In fact, all the biggest, most important ones are either belong to the state or the county. So these are a lot of the puzzles that we have to tease out in order to make progress on these places. We are now on White Street and we are nearing City Hall. We won't have a chance to show you the building, but it is a LEED Platinum historic restoration. This was a old high school. In fact, I just saw the movie Tennessee Williams' The Rose Tattoo from 1955, and the high school is in it. You can see the auditorium with all the chairs in it. It is now City Hall. It's only been in use all the way to the big parking lot. And there, and then into the, yeah. So, we've got look at the slides up. I can't, it's bouncing too much. I can't read it, but we are almost to our destination, so it's okay. We can go ahead and go back to person view because I can't read it to talk about it. But you will see in the parking lot, maybe, we actually do have big row of solar panels that act as sun shields for the cars underneath them in the parking lot. And those supply 30% of our energy for the building. And we also have the carpet inside was actually made not by a zero energy company, but a company that actually makes more energy than it uses, because it's a carpet company that works alongside a hydro dam. So they actually sell the extra that they make. And what's really cool is the carpet's all in squares. So if you stain it, somebody drops their coffee, you just take that square out instead of having a spot or having to refinish the entire floor. Even the wood that was in the auditorium when we changed it into a commissioned chambers, we either reused it as wainscoting on the inside of all the buildings, and all the sawdust went to our horse stables. We are going to be pulling up into City Hall, and we'll be able to talk about electric vehicles now.
And while we pull up, we had a question come through. Folks were wondering, what should they do if they want to green their homes the same way you've greened City Hall?
Start with energy first. One, it's going to save you the most money to continue to do projects. There are a number of things that actually give you tax rebates for the next 10 years. Start with your energy efficiencies first, and then go to your And then you go to your solar. You only want to supply the solar for something that you've gotten as low as possible in the first place. Let's go see an EV charger. Apparently, this is where Ryan wanted to bike too, so it's perfect.
And while we get the EV charger ready, don't forget, you can ask us questions. Get your questions in the question box.
Another question that was asked, so water is really easy. You can change out most of all of your fixtures for very cheap and save money on the water side. When you do put in an electric vehicle, most of them give you the charging. Many of them will give you the charging station. So there's your transportation side, and those are the places I would start first. So right here, you will see the first public meter. Don't film that. Don't film that. She's filming me take the out of order sticker off of it, so I'm going to stop. Unfortunately, I had a glitch in the system with a recent electrical storm, but this is the first public meter. The first public meter that was put in the city of Key West. That's what they look like. Rahili raises down arms like I was holding them up. And this is a level 2. Level 1s are usually the kind where you just plug them into the wall. Level 2s will take a couple of hours, and level 3s are the super high charge ones. There are more and more of these around. If you actually just Google EV charger map, you can see all the ones in your area. Most of them will be at hotels, but we actually have 2 here in the Keys that are now in grocery store shopping centers, so that when you go to get your groceries, you can go ahead and charge up. So on the bus side, the city did just get a grant for our first electric bus. It will take a couple of years to get it in, because they don't just have a drive it off of the showcase floor. So once we have put the order in, it'll take them about a year to build it custom. And we have to build the charging station for it. So imagine this, but on steroids, because it's got to charge a bus overnight. So we are looking to grow our entire fleet. We are also looking to grow our city fleet as well. So you've been on a hybrid bus for this ride. If you look to your left over here, these are all the city's 90% of those, all the littlest cars are all hybrids. We switched to those a good 3 years ago and have saved a lot of energy and money from that. They are hybrids. They are not electric, but they don't run on gas all the time. And for the private side, and I believe I have a slide. I don't know if my slide deck is up yet. I only thought to ask for it now that we're here. You can also do, on the private side, there is some great. Okay, somehow I'm getting a reverb. Is anybody else getting a reverb? Okay, thank you. On the private side, right now there are some great tax rebates out there. You can get up to $7,500 off instant credit. So it basically means that as you are buying the car, they take it off of the price of the car. Couple of caveats. You only get it if you make less than 150,000 AGI. That's all of us here. And if it's a car, all vehicles have to be made in the USA. And if it's a car, it has to be less than 55,000. And if it's a truck or an SUV, has to be less than 88,000. But again, many of those come with a home charger as well. So those are the deals out there right now for cars. The other thing that many people here are turning to is the electric bike. So you heard Ryan talk about that. I put an electric trike because then you can, carry stuff on it, right? But they have a range of 30 to 50 miles on one charge. And when you're living farther away or you're a little bit elderly, you don't want to drive your car, but you can still get a lot of places with an assisted or electric bike. So that's another way that works really well.
really quickly, we had a question come through. One of our attendees wants to know, how long was the meter put in, and are there more planned for the city?
Absolutely. This one went in when we moved into this building, which was about 8 or 9 years ago. And we just replaced it, and the new one went down. But we actually hope to grow to we've identified another 6 public parking lots that we intend to put them into. And what we'd like to, the big plan is to also tie those in with our solar paneled shade, so that the power that's made right there goes into the meter and then charges the cars. Any extra that's made could go into the building that's next to it. Is there any other questions?
All right, let's see. They were wondering about other sustainability practices of the city of Key West. You've shown us a lot today, but are there any other programs you want to highlight?
Our dear friend Sheetal, I'm going to plan to her, but I'm not going to make her talk. She's been on the job since end of September, early October. She's our adaptation and energy coordinator, and she is working on our 10-year energy plan. That is not just for the buildings that we operate. We have 100 facilities and half of them we actually lease out to other companies, retail, restaurants, and stuff like that. We're not only trying to take care of our energy bill, but also provide help, technical assistance to businesses, and potentially actually financial assistance to low-income residents here in the city. So that's a big piece on our energy side. We're working on water quality. We've got a water quality team that is making a plan from anything. Sheetal is also working on signage, so you can check what's the most latest testing from the FDOH at our beaches. And then that's water, transportation, energy, water. We actually just passed a ordinance that anything you put in has to be low flow. So it is building code that it has to be a certain level of low flow, and we actually reduced made all of those more efficient. So whether it's your shower nozzle, your dishwasher, and your clothes washers have to be water. There's a logo that, just like there's the Energy Star for energy, which is an EPA program, Water Sense, thank you. Water Sense is the EPA equivalent of Energy Star. So if you look for that logo, that's going to save you a lot in operations.
All right, and then we have one more question. Folks are wondering, why should they care about the sustainability stuff? Why do you think it's important?
I think because if you have ever visited Key West, you know it's a really good place and you don't want it to go underwater. One. No, it's there's a lot of different reasons, but in my position, I find you argue the green side, but you also argue the green side. A lot of times when you become more efficient and save natural resources, you're actually saving your own resources and pocket money. So why spend more money on keeping that light on for all night when you can put a different bulb in and use that on popcorn at the movies, because that's about all you're going to get. What time are we at?
It's time to go to SOS.
Perfect. Alicia's going to take over. If we put the adaptation slide up, you won't see us bouncing as we walk across to our last stop.
We'll just let that slide come up. I think you're back one slide. Or back another. There we go. All right. Now we're going to walk. So when we think about adaptation in terms of transportation and the transportation infrastructure, there's a couple of different ways that we can think about that. So you see across the top here, we have some of the climate changes, the impacts on transportation, which we talked about, and the consequences. And I know it's kind of a busy slide and it's not my favorite slide, but it's one of the things that you need to think about when you think about climate change adaptation and transportation. is there's two different places to affect change in this area. So the first place is to really look at adaptive strategies that'll reduce impacts. And when we're looking at reducing impacts, we might, like Allison was talking about, we might be talking about retrofitting facilities. We might be talking about upgrading facilities, protecting critical infrastructure, or incorporating climate change into maintenance cycles and maintenance costs. Now there's going to be things that you're not going to be able to change, that you're not going to be able to protect. So the second bottom box on the right there, you want to think about as adaptive strategies to reduce the consequences. That means, like we were talking about our friends in Key Largo that have water on their roadway, there's some level of service that we're not going to be able to adapt to. And when we talk about transportation in that way, we want to think about things like rerouting things. So you saw the bike paths through Key West. So you might want to think about rerouting people and things. And then, evacuation strategies and contingencies, like Allison was talking about as well. And finally, looking at improved management of things that are subject to consequences from climate change. And as we get ready to transition, you can take that slide down now, please. As we get ready to transition to our last and final stop, I am going to hand it over to Allison again to introduce our next speaker. And thank you all for coming with us.
All right. And while Alicia gets all that set up and Allison introduce our next speaker, just a reminder, everybody, you can ask questions. We are eager to hear from you.
Everybody, this is our last stop of the day. You might wonder why. We are the SOS Community Kitchen, and Lisa will tell us all about it.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Lisa. I'm the Director of Programs for SOS Foundation. We're a hunger relief organization that operates here in Monroe County. So I was just going to touch on the challenges with distribution and transportation that we face with our food supply, as well as the efforts that we make to minimize food waste in the county and especially in the Key West area. So also feel free to guide me with any questions that you might have. So in Monroe County, our soil quality is very poor. It's only a couple inches deep, and it's mostly made of coral and rock and also sand. So it's not great for traditional agriculture methods. There are a lot of different varieties of tropical fruit trees or fruit plants that grow well down here, but not the types of foods that, everyday families are going to the grocery store for. So because of that, we have to do a great amount of transportation to get food to the families who live in the Keys. And once you reach the mainland, there are a lot of farms in Florida. It's one of the top agricultural production states in the nation. So there is access once you get up to the mainland, but that's about 120 miles away. So lots of transportation needed to make that happen and close that gap. So every Monday, SOS goes to our partner organization Farm Share in Homestead, Florida. And that is at the very bottom tip of mainland Florida before you get into the Keys. And Farm Share is a nonprofit that collects food from farmers that would otherwise go to the waste stream. So they're doing food recovery on a large scale in Florida and also in southeastern states throughout. And so we pick up from them every Monday. So we're making that 250 plus mile trip every week to bring down about 8,000 pounds of produce. And we distribute that at our food pantries and a little bit at our kitchen in our fresh meals programs. So we do that every week. And obviously that takes about 7 hours round trip. So it is also a time cost as well. And so food recovery, do you want me to do a quick overview of what that is? So food recovery is basically redirecting food that would otherwise go to the waste stream and redirecting it to people in need to our plates so that we can enjoy the food and get the nutrition out of it, rather than just sending perfectly edible food to the waste stream to rot and emit greenhouse gases. So we focus a lot on that at SOS. The majority of our food that we distribute is recovered, and we do that federally through USDA food programs. We do that regionally with Farm Share, and even on the local and individual level by picking up from local businesses or grocery stores, restaurants, even tourists, everything like that. So yeah, SOS does a lot to focus on food recovery, food waste, and to minimize that transportation barrier that we face.
Awesome. So if someone wants to support your mission, what should they do?
You can visit our website, sosfoundation.org. There is a Get Involved tab there, so feel free to reach out either on our Contact Us page or check out the Get Involved page, and you can donate, volunteer, learn more, anything like that.
Awesome. And one more question. So it seems like everything's interconnected. Climate change, adaptation, reducing food waste. Could you speak to those interconnections a little bit more?
Sure. Food is something that's in our lives 24/7. We eat 3 times a day at least. And everything that makes it onto our plates has to start somewhere. So it's a web that's really interconnected with us locally. Just going to all the same grocery store, and then where does the food come from at the grocery store? Where do the farms start? Where does it transport to? And our food economy at this point is very globalized. It's not very central and local. And so there are a lot more factors that go into getting our food. And so that is why climate change has been so increased by the food production that we're doing these days, which is requires much more transportation. There's much more fertilizers and pesticides needed to enhance the soil quality that we have because we've been producing for so long. And so there are a lot of factors that go into the production of our food, the distribution of it, the processing of it, that contributes to climate change and greenhouse gas emissions.
Awesome. Thank you for the insightful presentation. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we pivot to the next part of our stream today?
No, I don't think so. I think I guess one last thing is SOS is really focused on purchasing produce from local Florida growers at this point. We're working on a grant to do that within the community with local restaurants and businesses. So that's something on the horizon that we're really looking forward to.
Fantastic. I think we'll pass it back to our MCs to help take us home.
Great. Well, we're so happy to be able to share this with you today, and happy to take you around Key West and show you some of the things that we're doing. And we just want to say hi from us in Key West and wherever you are. I think we have a few slides left that Carolyn is going to take over and do those slides. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm going to take the mic from you.
Yep.
All right. So we have a few slides to take us home, and then I want to thank the team one more time. So I'm going to reverse my camera so y'all can see me. We also have some slides from Alicia. So actually, I'm going to pass the mic back to her. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody. We want to make sure you get all this good info before we leave you today.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah, so we don't want to leave you with all this information without telling you what we think you can do. And so there's lots of stuff you can do, and you'll see on the slides right now. Carpool, choose your most efficient option, bike, bus, or walk, combine errands, and choose housing wisely. But we think there's additional things you can do. Next slide, please. So one thing that gets a lot of traction here in the Keys, and I think throughout Florida, is really go to those city commission meetings, talk to those city planners, really get what you need from your city. So you can ask your city to provide better bicycle infrastructure, better public transportation, walkable streets, shaded walkable streets if you live in Florida, and that charging infrastructure we saw. So lastly, we want to encourage you to meet with your city planners and your city officials and ask for the things that you need to be more sustainable. Next slide, please. So I think this is Allison's slide, but I think I can wing it. Oh, how is you? Okay, good. Carol, back to Carolyn.
Perfect. Yes, I wanted to give you all some citizen science tips before I go back to thanking our teams one more time. I mean, I love Key West. I love visiting, and you all really have a gem of a city government and of your extension office. I've just been so impressed with seeing Allison and Alicia at work, true leaders here. So definitely stop by City Hall, say hello, stop by the Monroe County Extension Office. They want to hear from you, and you all are really lucky. So I'm jealous of you, Monroe County residents and Key West residents. But so you heard a little bit about local infrastructure in Key West. And for those of you tuning in from other places, because I saw some people from around the state and around the world tuning in, which is pretty cool, definitely get in touch with your local officials and say, hey, we want what Key West has. And you could say, you know, Extension's a really cool resource. I should get in touch with my local Extension office. I hope those things inspire you today and help you become a little bit more sustainable and do climate change mitigation and adaptation. I want to talk to you about citizen science, which is a way of understanding the problem of climate change. So citizen science is how a member of the public can help move science forward, help generate knowledge about the world. Citizen science typically entails collecting or analyzing data. And citizen science goes by a few different names. You'll see them on my slide, but ultimately it just comes down to someone doing real science. So measuring water quality with a special test kit, or, you know, monitoring the night sky and looking at different constellations for NASA researchers, or even, you know, playing games online to help analyze blood vessels for Alzheimer's scientists. The list goes on and on. Citizen science is any way a member of the public collects or analyzes data to understand the world. We'll go to the next slide. So why do we do citizen science to understand the environment and climate change? I mean, I know I'm scared of climate change. I mean, we heard it today, right? Like, climate impacts are real. They're here. We need to adapt to them. We need to help mitigate them when possible. But we also want to understand the problem. So when we feel powerless in the face of climate change and other environmental problems, we can do citizen science to understand them better. And the thing about climate change is it's different street by street. I mean, you may have saw that today while you were on the bus with us, right? There are some streets that are more likely to flood than others because of the elevation. Or maybe on one part of town, there are more trees, so you're less likely to experience heat stroke, right? Extreme heat is an impact of climate change. Well, these granular differences matter, and when you do citizen science to understand them, you help community leaders know, okay, this is what the problem is. Maybe we should target different infrastructure things. I've seen different municipalities use citizen science, but regardless, you can do it to help scientists understand the problem. We'll go to the next slide. One of the projects that's partnered with me, this is actually separate from Extension, is called I See Change. They're a global community that basically turns anybody and everybody into a climate change reporter. So you can take pictures of climate impacts and just post them to I See Change. And by describing them with those words and pictures, you're submitting valuable qualitative data. We'll go to the next slide. So it's super simple. You can see here, this is a picture from Miami Beach. Someone took a picture of flooding on the sidewalk. They posted it. And the important thing was they gave the human impact of climate change. They said, I'm really worried about this senior in my community. I'm worried he'll slip. Believe it or not, that's valuable qualitative data, words and pictures, that's paired with the quantitative data like inches of rainfall to give a full picture of what's going on with climate change. We'll go to the next slide. So to participate in I See Change, it's super simple. You just create an account. You can use the same email address for SciStarter, which is one of the sponsors of this program, and everything tracks back to your SciStarter dashboard. Then you just post what you see. So you describe the climate impact, be it extreme heat or flooding or something else in your community, and then you get to learn from others. And we'll go to the next slide. And this is the final question break, everybody. So don't be shy. Let's see if we have any questions. And you can ask anybody you've heard from today questions. Allison's here, Alicia's here, their team members are here, I'm here. We can answer your questions today. So let's see, I'm gonna check the Q&A and see if there are any more questions coming through before we exit today. I know I enjoyed today's adventure. I hope you all did too. Let's see. I'm seeing someone ask they want parting words of wisdom from our team here. So if we want to stop sharing the slides for a second, I'm going to pivot back over to our team and pass the mic back to them so they can give us any parting words of wisdom they have. If you want to just say goodbye or
Sure. I just wanted to say and just help you all understand that all these sustainability practices you heard about today, they are key to climate mitigation. Everything that we do, from growing food to having food on our plate to like riding on vehicles, and everything that we do around our house, turning on lights, everything consumes energy. And energy comes from fossil fuels, and that's what causes climate change. So when you're being sustainable, you're actually helping and playing a role in mitigating climate change. So just wanted to share that. Woo! Thank you.
Pass it along. Say goodbye to the people.
Okay, so I will kind of bounce off of that and say that food and what you eat is one of the most important ways or easiest ways that you can contribute to the mitigation of climate change. Simple decisions that you make every day can have a huge impact. And then also what you do with the food after you're done preparing it. You can compost, you can recycle, anything like that goes a long way as well. So everything related to your food routine is a great step to take towards being more sustainable.
I want to thank this great team for coming together and helping us with this today. It's been wonderful. And I also want to say, going green doesn't happen overnight. Pick the one thing you want to work on first and make that a routine, and then pick the next thing. And if the next thing doesn't work for you, pick another thing. It's repetition that makes it normal. And once you've done it enough times, it doesn't feel like you're making any extra effort at all.
My name is Victoria. I am an intern with the UF Extension Services. I'm currently a grad student with global sustainability. So I just wanted to say I am a local of Key West, and I think that this live stream should showcase the vulnerabilities to a unique and beautiful ecosystem and historic town. And so I decided to go into sustainability to kind of protect cities like this. And I hope you learned something from it. And I hope you are able to implement something, adapt to something, and also educate others. Education is a huge part of sustainability. And one conversation can really change someone. So I'm a proud sustainabilist and look US local, and here's my supervisor.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I am Alicia Betancourt, and I'm the County Extension Director with the University of Florida, IFAS Extension. And we are a resource throughout the state. But if for some reason you're not in our state, there's an extension service in every state in the nation. So look up your cooperative extension service, and you'll find a resource for all sorts of stuff sustainability related. And thank you.
One more time. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it. So we'll share our screen one last time. Those were some great words of wisdom from the awesome team that helped make this program possible. So final housekeeping. We really want you to stay in touch with your local extension office. So go to the IFAS Extension Monroe website, or like Alicia just said, you can go to, any state you're in, there's an extension, so take advantage of it. They're there to help. And if you're in Key West, definitely take advantage of local city resources. The city website is there for you. And also the people at City Hall are so friendly. Like, they are here to help you, and they have so many resources for you. So definitely take advantage of that local expertise. We'll go to the next slide. We have a survey. So if you fill that out, you can help us understand the impact of programs like these and what you learned. You can also help me finish my PhD. So just go type that link that's on the slide into your browser. It's bit.ly/ClimateCast survey. And even if you're watching this recording after the fact, you can still do the survey, I think, for up to a week after our program. And also, after you do the survey, you can do an interview with me and tell me about what you learned. And you can even show me what you contributed to IC Change, that citizen science project I spotlighted at the end there. So I really hope you all do the survey, but it's completely optional. And we'll go to the next slide. And that's it. That's my email up on the screen. If you have any questions, ping me. I can get you to the right place. But otherwise, the city of Key West is here for you. You have some awesome local expertise here, as well as the extension office. So I think we'll end it here. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye, everybody. Woo!